Don't thrush it.
Everybody, thanks for coming tonight. I'm Nicholas Horrell, Chairman of Environment Southland. It's great to see the turnout we've got here. Okay, we probably have got a microphone. My voice is reasonably loud, but probably not loud enough. Can you hear me now?
No.
Technology is a wonderful thing. First thing. That working? Yeah. We'll start that again. Hi, I'm Nicholas Horrell, Chairman of Environment Southland, and it's just great to see such a good turnout to this meeting tonight. Just a few of the health and safety. The toilets are located in the foyer area. In the event of emergency, please exit in an orderly fashion and gather in the car park outside the chamber. Please turn off your mobiles and keep it on or put it on silent. And I'm sure you will conduct yourself. It's great to have people coming to give us feedback. So I think without much further ado, we will move on to this slide.
Can I please ask, is this meeting being recorded, please, Nicole?
It's being live streamed. I'm not sure whether it is being recorded.
On YouTube. Yeah.
It's on YouTube. Yeah, it is. Yes.
Thank you.
That will address. It's good to go. As we can see from the slide, we are in the process of our long-term plan, and the submission period finishes on the 6th of May, but it's great to actually have people coming and asking some questions tonight. We'll do a bit of a presentation. I think I'm doing the first 2 or 3 slides, then we'll hand over to Randall and Tania, but we really want to hear your feedback. A significant feature of this LTP is actually the proposed flood protection infrastructure rate. And that's a significant amount of money on its own. We really want good feedback on that. But, we've seen what's happened in the North Island with 40 years since the Southland floods. And we felt we had to come out and ask the public of the region, how fast do you want us to move on this stuff? And everybody says we can't afford it now, but if the houses get flooded, they've got a different perspective. So we're really keen to hear what your thoughts on that. And we're really keen for you to actually look at the various options that are available, not just the one. The other thing we've already done some work, as you'll realise, over the last 3 years. We were fortunate to get some of the government's shovel-ready money. But with all government money, there is a local share that we have to start repaying. So that's the second item up there. And of course, whether we like it or not, we actually do have to make build inflation into our budgets. So pretty much it's business as usual, but the two other big components there at the moment is the flood infrastructure rate and making provision to start repaying debt that will occur over the next year or two. The last year or two. The next slide. And I guess, this is the why. I mean, flooding is our most common hazard in Southland. We know with what we're seeing in the climate around the countryside, we've had them before. The system we've had has actually worked remarkably well since the late 80s when a lot of it was actually built. But it is ageing and it hasn't had much maintenance over the last few years. Pretty hopeful we may see some money in the budget, and the bottom line is we have got to have something in our plan that if government money is available, that we can put our hand up for some of our projects that have been costed. If we don't put them in there, we would miss out on Southland's share, and we can't do that. And over time, it's not just about flood banks. We've got a slow the flow program on at the moment, and we know the last 70 or 80 years we've straightened rivers and sped them up. We actually need to increase the capacity within our rivers and actually slow the water down. And this over time, we know that wetlands make a huge difference. So if we can slow the water down, it'll actually be good for flood events, but also good for water quality. I'll probably leave it at that, and you, next cab off the rank, Randall?
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Randall Beale, Catchment Operations Manager. My team manages the region's flood protection assets for Southland. It's 516 kilometres of flood banks and 1,400 kilometres of drainage network. Across New Zealand, flooding is our most common hazard. What we're proposing through this LTP is to invest more into the stop banks. So we're proposing a 50% increase for the major catchments through Southland for those assets. There is a changing climate. We are in a pattern of weather that's going to lead to more severe weather events similar to the 70s and 80s. It's separate to climate change. We haven't included climate change in any of our modelling for our stockings. This is focused on our current assets and getting them up to doing the job they need to keep doing for us. The regional benefit, we talk about the state highways, the airports, the main trunk lines, all the power utilities. There's a lot of assets that benefit from our flood protection schemes, not just the ratepayers. And we do need to start planning for the longer term transition. So the investment in flood protection to build community resilience, we are looking at region-wide, not any particular catchment this time. We want to improve the infrastructure. We want to improve the data, our knowledge and our response capability. So the data is also important, not just for the work that we do propose to do, but it's also to help us get consents to do that work. We're proposing capital works for Waihopa, Winton and Lumsden in years 1 to 3, and from years 4, which will be in the second consultation period for the next LTP, where we'll have more projects included then. Tony is going to talk to you about a region-wide approach to funding to make it more affordable for Southland as a whole.
Good evening, Tanya Hawkins, Chief Financial Officer. I'm going to take you through some information tonight that will help you understand the details of what we're proposing and what the council are proposing regarding changing the rates and the budget and how it might affect you. Can everybody hear me? Cool. So, common questions. What do we want to cover tonight so that you can go out of here with some more knowledge? Why are we investing? Now, the chairman and Randall have discussed that we're investing for the future for our people and our properties. The other questions we want to answer is how does the proposed change in rates policy affect your rates? How does the budget proposed affect your rates? And how much debt? And how could we pay that back? How will that also affect your rates? There are 3 consultations going on at the same time. So the first consultation is called up there, Revenue and Financing Policy Rate Changes. It's actually described as a statement of proposal revenue and financing policy. And it's this document here. I encourage you to go online and have a look at this document. It actually is the one that details the proposed changes from land value to capital value to the one rate, as opposed to this document that you have here in your hands, which describes the budget of the amount of work that the council wants to do and the proposed budget for that. The third consultation is on fees and charges. Now, there are other lesser consultations, if you like, consultations on policy and other things that you'll be interested in. And financially, fees and charges is also an important consultation. So if you have a relationship with the council through a consent or any other activity that might incur a cost, I encourage you to have a look at that as well. It'll lay out there what's happening. Just in summary, it's proposed to increase the charges by the rate of inflation, and there's a couple of other monitoring charges and science charges changes, not a big overall change. So let's work through this one in pieces. I'd like you to well, I'd like to help you think about this in two ways. What does this change mean by changing the policy? And what does it mean by changing the budget? Because they are two separate things. Some of you will be affected by, well, you'll be all affected, but some more than others. So the first key thing here is that we are proposing to replace 140 catchment rates with one rate. Now, this what we've got here is an example of one catchment. We have this is Matara catchment, 37 different rates in Matara. I think Reed's not far behind in a smaller number in Tiana, etc. So we have 7 catchments, 7 committees. So just to help me understand where we're at as a group, who in here is in a rural catchment? Large number. That help me again. That means who here is in like an Invercargill ratepayer. Okay, that's good. Invercargill is reasonably simple catchment. There's about three levies. Okay, but if you live in Matara, as I said, there's 37. They're incredibly complex. There's a reason for them. They were set up in the 1970s, 80s, depending on the benefit calculated from where the flood banks were built. Now, we were asked as a group, the council were asked as a group over time to review these catchment rates on the basis that the catchment liaison committees felt that they had become inequitable, that the purpose of those levies over time had changed. The flood banks were built and paid for them. Another reason we wanted to undertake a review of them was that we understood that there had been changes in society, changes in the community, and changes in the river, changes in our reliance on, as Randall talked to, communication and transport. The council has started with a clean slate, wanting them to ask the questions of themselves. How would we do it today if we were to start this rating system again? And the 3 questions were, how should we share the rates between the local and the regional? The regional community be the general ratepayer and the local ratepayer be the individual communities. On what basis would we rate? Would we rate on land value, capital value, or area? So we started with that in mind, and what we found along the way was a lot of really interesting information. For example, $2 billion worth of assets sit outside the current rating system that can't be rated. 17% of the ratepayers sit outside the rating system. So what we were seeing was the sharing of the rates, if you like, to put it that way, wasn't equal across the district. It was appropriate when this, as I said, when the flood schemes were built, but not so appropriate today. The other change here is to move the biosecurity and land sustainability rates into the general rate capital value. Now again, these rates were completely appropriate at the time they were set many years ago, in fact during the catchment board days, when land definitely benefited from the activities of the council. So the council back in the day used to kill the rabbits, plant the trees, dig the ditches. We still clean the ditches, but we don't plant the trees ourselves and we don't kill the rabbits. All of those costs sit with you. Council today is about legislation, regulation, education, and communication. Okay, and those 4 things are benefiting every one of you, or us, as ratepayers in this economy. It's an economy now of $7 billion, very narrowly focused on the rural industry, but it spreads right across the region. The urban community require or need the rural community, and the rural community benefit and need the urban community. So what we're looking at and proposing, councillors are proposing, is that the best way to spread that would be to spread it by capital value. That's the cost. And the last one here is new flood protection infrastructure. I didn't say the last big build of infrastructure was in the early 90s, and it's the basis of this rating system. Today, looking at it again, with our current projects underway and future projects, is that's still the way we want to share it. It's a very complex way, very hard to determine too. When we first set this one up, or the original surveys did, They worked on the basis of the 1984 flood, and they said you're either going to be in or out of the flood scheme based on that. Well, we can't do that today because some of the building that we want to do is not necessarily building up higher flood banks. Okay. That's not, and you'll probably agree, that's not necessarily the way to go. Should we widen the rivers? Should we do something up country in the high upper catchments? Should we try and slow the river down, as Randy said? And if we do those things, if we build wetlands, how do we determine the exact beneficiary of that particular action that we're taking? It's not that simple anymore. The councillors are proposing that we all benefit, and then on that same benefit, we share costs the same way as we're proposing to share the costs. So for those of you in the rural area, I'm going to ask you, do any of you know the current classification or rating classification that you were paying? One, good on you, Doug. Same answer I get most of the time. It's A, B, C, D, E, F, and whichever rating you are depends on your location. But, you know, in front of this flood bank, behind the flood bank, or up in the hills. There's a huge difference in rate in this. And I'll give you an example of the Tianao one because it's the most significant variation. There's 6 farms in the valleys in the Tianao area who pay $1,100 per hectare, $1,100 per 100,000 of land value for a rate for catchment. $1,100. In the township, they pay $10. Now that's an extreme example, but those examples play out right across the region. So by proposing to do this, what the councillors are proposing is that, hard to do with microphone, some rates are going to come up and those that have got extraordinarily high rates are going to come down, and that we come to an average. So there's a 1-year adjustment where we're coming down to this average. So that we'll see, as you go through here, we'll see some rates decrease for some people under this rate change policy, and we'll see some rates increase a little bit for a lot of people. We'll talk about that in a minute. It's important too, if you're in the rural area, that we're not talking about changing drainage rates at the moment. They're going to stay the same. So how does it work? If we look at the flood infrastructure rates, we'll see, and we group this together as rural, residential, commercial, not because we rate you that way, but because it's just sort of easier to identify different groups of properties. So for flood, residential is paying $7 per 100,000, rural 13 and commercial 6. The proposal is that everybody would pay the same, which would bring it to 10. So you can see some are going down, some are going up. Wrong way, sorry. Yeah, sorry, here we go. Now the same for biosecurity and land sustainability rates. Currently 10 for residential, 20 for rural, 6. So this will become 14, 14 and 14. And if you think, oh my gosh, that looks like a lot. Well, on a $400,000 property with a $150,000 land value at the moment, we'll focus on this. $400,000 property, you're paying $10, so $40 for those rates at the moment if you own that $400,000 property. And under this one, you'll be paying 14 times 400,000, which is 56. Okay, so 40 to 56. So it's not as extreme as it sounds, or you might have think that it sounds. Okay. What does it mean as a group, as a sector then? The commercial sector will be looking at paying as a group, not on an average necessarily, not in your property necessarily, but 31%. The rural industry will be paying less by 8%, and residential will go up as a sector by 2%. So in the terms of current share, rural is paying 45, will go to 42, residential will go from 46 to 47, and commercial from 9 to 11. Now it doesn't look like a lot going from 9 to 11, but we're talking big property values. So what does that actually mean in dollars per property? Which is why you're here. Of the 51,000 properties, 24,700 would pay less rates under the proposal change before we put, before we added the budget increase. So if we started today and we didn't put your rates up, nearly half would actually see a decrease. And the same amount, nearly 26,000 would see an increase. And that is actually, that was the desired outcome of this proposal, was that we, the councillors rather, were not aiming to move or shift the rates purposefully, but redistribute them and try and make them more even. And the outcome from that is like a bell curve on the side. So we've got most of the properties here, 20,000 of them sitting between zero plus or minus $20. So more than $20 a year, less than $20 a year. And then another 10,000 sitting out at the $40 mark. So a huge number sitting in this $0 to $40, $0 to $40 minus. Now down here we've got 3,000 properties that are going to would be better off by $100, and another 3,800 that would pay more than $100 a year. In some cases, there'll be a lot more, and in some cases, it'll be a lot less. It depends on the scale of the property. Residential ratepayers, 22,000, 23,000 going up, 18,000, 19,000 going down. Again, all in this middle here, $0 to $40. 30,000 of them sitting in the middle there. Rural ratepayers, 60% of rural ratepayers would be better off under this proposal. 40% would have a higher rate. And 160 will pay more than $500, but 680 will pay less than $500. Again, most in the middle up until $0 to $200. Right, so I'm going to stop at this point just to clarify what's happening and ask more correctly, ask you if you have any questions that would help the rest of the audience at this point before we go on to talk about the actual budget increase. Remembering that we're talking about a proposed rate change and spreading of the rates.
Are you asking for questions now in relation to that?
Okay, we're going to do questions after. So I'll ask another question of my fellow colleagues. Have I missed anything in my presentation? We've covered it off, fair enough. I've got some people here who have been on 8 of these with me, so I'm just checking in. Right, we'll keep the question to the end then, unless it's, thank you, Chris. Right, the LTP consultation document then. This document, which lays out the proposed expenditure and the required expenditure of council for the 2024-25 year. As the Chairman alluded to, we have costs that are built into every budget. You'll see if you're looking at the media, every council struggling with this. Inflation and interest rates. And if by choice we have a decision, well, a proposal based on your feedback to invest in infrastructure. So the first two I's, inflation and interest costs, not much we can do about except be as efficient as we can. The proposal was to spend $2.3 million more in operating expenditure per annum, and then to borrow some money, and you'll see in the back of the document, to borrow for a capital expenditure program for the next 10 years, assuming that the government are going to pay, will continue because we've already got some money, so the government will fund 75% of it. That is the proposal that we're consulting on. Now, Randall discussed where we're going to spend the money, and there's a lot of detail online in our infrastructure strategy. If you'd like to go and look at that, it says where, how much, and over what period the proposal for capital expenditure. The cost and rate payer for that investment looks like this. So for a $450,000 property, that additional $2.3 million will be 40 cents a week. For the current projects that we're just completing now, 30 cents a week, and the cost of council, operating costs including inflation, 50 cents a week. So we're looking at $1.20 a week, $60 a year for a theoretical average property across Southland. If your property is worth 10 times that, if you've got a rural or commercial property, then you could be looking at 10 times that, depending on the location and the current land value capital value split. Now, if I didn't say it before, I'm hoping you will know that there's an online rates calculator that you can go and use to work out your proposed changes, current proposed rates. So again, this average property, $336 a year now, $397 a year. So if we take what we want to look at now is a combination of the rate change policy and the budget increase. Now, I know there's a lot of numbers been floating around, percentages. There's a lot of focus on percentages, and percentages are interesting. The dollars, I suggest to you that the dollars per annum where we should be focusing, and particularly the dollars a week. And this is what the council looked at a lot when we were doing these proposals. What would the cost be to the ratepayer, dollars per week, particularly for those residential properties? So, again, 51,000 properties. We've got 40,000 properties under $3 a week. Another 5,000 in the $3 to $5 a week. And then the balance here, above $500 a year or above $550 a year, 1,700 properties. Residential properties, the bulk of them here under $2, and another huge amount under $3. So a significant amount, and this is your typical, if I can say it, typical residential area here under the $600,000 in Southland still. We have some residential properties, of course, higher, but these are the numbers. So 10% of the total residential properties are above 600,000. So 10% of them are above $2 a week. Again, this is a combination of the budget and the rate change. Rural properties, 5,600. 3,000, not nearly 4,000 of them down here, around $4 a week or $220 a year. Again, depending on location where you are in the catchment system. Okay. Commercial. Well, I probably didn't spend enough time talking about this at the beginning. The reason we categorise the properties is because there's a relationship between capital value and land value. So what we saw as we went through the rate review is that properties with small land value and large capital value were paying very little towards land sustainability, biosecurity, and catchment rate. And substantially less than an equivalent property that might have been out of town or on a rural block. When we look at this capital value change, what we're seeing is admittedly, there's 3,200 properties here. The bulk of them are still down in this low area here for rate increases. So down here, property values under $1 million. Look at $23 a year. That's the same or less in fact than a residential property. When you get up to the millions of dollars, we're starting to see some higher numbers coming through here for commercial properties, recognising that that shift in land value to capital value is going to move some land sales and bio rates for these properties. But I ask you to look at the fact there that there's only 130 properties in the whole of Southland. What does it mean in terms of total dollars? Well, we saw before there was going to be a movement as a result of the rate change policy. So as a result of the rate change policy, commercial as a group would pay $847,000 more. Rural would pay $1.1 million less. residential will pay 370,000 more. If we add on the proposed budget increase, that would see commercial pay another 774,000. Rural pay 2.6 and residential pay 3.3. What I can't show you here is if you can slide that back across that one, that net is actually 1.5. Okay, so there's an addition and a subtraction. And the last piece, debt. We were asked some questions and fair questions. How much debt? Why? And how on earth will we pay it? What's the cost? So page 24 of your document, go back here about debt. Now, council has not borrowed money for a long time. Since the last bill borrowed for the infrastructure, paid it off through the ratepayers over time. The borrowing that we've got underway at the moment is for the current projects. The proposal is that we borrow to fund the local share or the ratepayers share. You may be aware that the government fund on a permanent basis road infrastructure. It's a 50-50 share with the local council. The regional councils as a group have been doing a really good job of coordinating applications to the government for government funding. But the sheer amount of money that we need to build new infrastructure is beyond the capability of most small communities. So the last proposal that we had from the government, which we benefited from, was a 75-25 split. So the assumption is that over the next 10 years, that we will borrow $76 million and that the government will provide $135 million. Now, there's no guarantee of that. It is promising, but there's no guarantee. What's really important you need to understand is that there's no commitment to do this either. So the councillors have put this money up in the proposed work program to show the government that we are ready, we need to do the work, we're ready to do the work, and we're prepared to pay our share. Now, they've been really clear that if we're not prepared to pay our share, they will not be investing in us. Now, later in the year, I think end of May, we're going to find out about our current bid, where we will be hopefully receiving some more government funding and we'll put our share in. So that is the purpose. It's a tremendously good opportunity for this community of only 36,500 unique ratepayers to obtain significant funding over a period of time. What does that mean though? Well, let's have a look. As an example, if we were to borrow $5 million at 5% for 25 years, it costs $450,000 a year. The capital value of this region is $43 billion, which is huge, huge number. If we divide that out, so that would put a property of $450,000 value, whether it be could be a farmlet, could be a commercial property, could be your local garage, or it might be your house, whatever it is. That would cost $5 a year. That's it, okay, $5. After 10 years, if we've borrowed that 70 million, that same property will be paying $66. So 10 years from now, $200 million investment will cost the ratepayer $66 per annum, that ratepayer. Now, if you're a larger property owner, that's your annual cost in the future. And if you're a significant industry, that is your cost. Now, again, that's the proposal. The council has about that. That's a very good financial return to the community. It's increasing resilience significantly by sharing with the government. It's the best we can do for the community value for money. Right, that's the end of the numbers and the proposal. This, as I say to you, the rate calculators online. That presentation that I've just gone through is also available to you, printed copy soon. Yeah, for you to take away and study and have a look at the numbers. On which you'll be able to ask further questions or submit. Now, Jeremy, are you wanting to?
I wonder if we should bring the kids.
Yeah, we'll start a few questions and answers. We get Will and Nicola here. So you can direct the questions to myself and we'll send questions to whoever's the most appropriate person now. So we'll start. Do we have a microphone for the questions? Chris, if you get a microphone.
Hello. Sure. Okay. Hello.
Yeah.
I'm Chris Burgess from Maribel Spring Hills to attack around the farmer. My rates are going up 30% on 170 acres. My son's property next door, 2,000 acres, is going up 30%. Environment Southland rates. My daughter's property next door, 5 acres, is going up 80% with this capital raising system. I'm not saying the capital raising system is necessarily wrong, but it needs some sort of differential. My son's building a deer shed on his farm, probably costing close to, I'm not sure to be fair, 800,000 or something. Well, it won't be that, it might be 400,000. It'll increase the value of his farm. He's doing it to be more environmentally friendly and help the environment. He will be penalised under the capital raising system. It needs some sort of filtering if it's going to go ahead to allow for that sort of thing. Why should he be penalised for being environmentally friendly because his property value increases with building the shed? That's my first thing. The second thing, actually, you're talking about needing more money. Why in the long-term plan is the annual general uniform charge called the AGUC, why is it being lowered? It's going from $143 per ratepayer to $95. According to inflation, that figure should be increasing 30%. So you're talking about increasing borrowing, and yet why are you reducing that charge to across the board? Where is that shortfall going to come from when actually that AGUC goal is the sharing of the cost of flood infrastructure across the region? Could you answer that question, please?
This on? No, thank you, Christine. And there are, especially in that whale catchment, when you put these things together, there are some aberrations.
I don't think it's working.
It's working.
It's working? Yeah. There are some aberrations, but look, submit on those things. The capital.
I want an answer tonight. Sorry,
Well,
submit. No, we came here for answers, Nicole. I've asked a question. Would you answer it, please?
On the capital value on the surface, it looks to be a fairer system. It actually, most councils in New Zealand actually use it. If you don't like it, submit on it. I know in the whale catchment in particular, because of the Meridian deal, a lot of people have paid a minimal rate as far as the catchment rate went. So that's something people might submit on that and say that we need to do something different in that area, and we'll listen to that through the submissions. Look, we're in a process where we can't change. We'll put something out. We'll answer the questions we can for clarification, but we're not allowed to change things on the hop. We will answer as many questions as we can. If we can't answer them tonight, we'll get back to you. But we'll listen to your submissions and then we'll make the final decisions.
Okay, you haven't answered my second question. Why is the annual general uniform charge currently sitting at $143 per ratepayer across Southland being dropped to $95 when you're saying you need to borrow more money? It is happening. It's all in here.
Thank you, Chris. So the $95 is in the statement of proposal that you're looking at?
It's in this document here,
Yes, it is.
which is not now a draft document. The first one had draft on it, this does not.
It's still a draft. We might have taken that, well, we took the stand off, but. So the proposal was to reduce the UAGC from 140.
I can't quite hear you.
The proposal was to reduce the UAGC from 143 to 95. It is then increased by the budget by 23%. So the UAGC is actually $120 as a result of those two changes. And I know that might seem sort of counterintuitive to you, but that's how it works. So we're proposing that the UAGC be $120 for the period 24 to 25.
Why does it say in this document then that it is being dropped down, that is on a certain page that I just page 10. It says,
I understand that it says that, and I just.
therefore, for the purpose of modelling, the UAGC has been reduced from $143 per rating unit in 2024-25 to $95 per rating unit in the modelling.
And if I could just help you by the fact that we split this into two pieces. We did the modelling as if the rates weren't changing. So as if the rates today weren't changing, the rates would have gone from 143 to 95. Then we've come and we've said, actually, we need to increase the budget by the 2.3 million in inflation and interest. And every year that we do that, we lift the UAGC up. So we've lifted it from the theoretical 95 to 120, and that's where it sits at the moment.
Well,
So it's two pieces, and I apologise if that's confusing, but so effectively the UAGC is proposed to be 120.
Quite a few people here, I think you probably had your
we haven't finished this question. Why is that figure not going up with inflation? You say we need to borrowing because of everything else. Why is that figure not going up for inflation so everyone pays equally of it?
Look, the maximum we can have for that is 30%. When we did the modelling, you've got people that probably haven't got a lot of money or might have a bare section, but if you don't like it, submit on it. We can still look at that. And it's been broken, and I'd advise people to look at each section because you put the proposed rate increase and it makes a big difference. So we were trying to put like for like out there. But no, thanks for the question.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. It's very clear, and then just to reiterate that there's two discussions here. We're changing the rate, how we rate, and then we add the budget, new budget into it, and that's where the confusion is. The UAGC is always a tool that the council can, up to 30%, can alter it on everybody pays that rate. So yeah, we've obviously got two different topics here, and that's where the 95 or the 120 comes into play. But the 120 is what the proposed.
But there's no 120 in here.
I know, that's talking about the rate review, how if nothing changed, no extra budget, that's how we rate everyone.
Thank you.
On this part, right?
I went to a meeting at Waimahaka earlier in the week and picked up the environmental
Microphone closer to you.
Sorry, I picked up the environmental staff and review and financing policy update, and it said we will be posting every ratepayer a letter telling you how much your rates will be affected by this. I just got given another one at the door, and it says we will be posting ratepayers with significant potential cost increases a letter about the proposal. So two questions really. Why did you change it? And can you please define significant? Because my rates are going up from 400 and something to over 500. They're going up by 133. Now to me, that is massively significant. But to a commercial company where it's going up by a few thousand, or a farm where it's going up by thousands, it's obviously not. So does that mean I won't be getting an explanation, or what do you mean by significant? And why did you change it? Why aren't we all getting a letter?
Yeah, exactly. Why?
Thank you for raising that one. So essentially there was a correction posted on a website that was an enormous mistake. We have written to ratepayers who received a change of over $3,000 directly. We've also posted a newsletter in Laurie South to put that in everyone's mailbox. So those have been the two forms of notification, along with a whole media campaign, radio, social media, etc., advertising and lots of different things. And why not write to every mail, every person in the region? The reason for that is the cost And the original wording indicated that we would calculate the rates for you. We've got the rates calculator tool that's being developed to do that function. And there would be obviously a huge time and cost pulling the information together for every individual ratepayer. So hence, it's the reason we've gone with the approach we have.
So it's not, we're not worth a letter and a stamp. I am not worth a letter and a stamp telling me about what's happening. I don't look at your website all the time. I have friends who don't have computers, who never look at it. You have drop-in centres. You don't even advertise on your community pages. No one knows they're on. You have 180 people working here, and you do not have people assigned to publicity. To me, it smells like you purposely do this. There were 2 people at the Winton drop-in centre at 10 a.m. on a Saturday morning. The time's no good. We need public meetings everywhere. 9 out of 10 people in Southland know nothing of this stuff. They don't even know this is going on. And you say these rates aren't increasing much. I think 80% increase in a farmlet is a quite significant amount. I know a lady had a bare piece of land. She's built an $800,000 house on it. She's looking at a 400% increase in her rates. It is very, very significant, please, to a lot of people. Don't undermine this. Most of these people won't even know what their rates increase is. We were working some out today. Tuatapere 25%, 15%, Gore 40%, some houses, Tiania 50, 60%. It is a significant amount of money. And what are you going to do the year after? Are you going to bump it up more?
Well, they can't they? You do anything.
Your publicity is terrible. You treat us like we don't count. You treat us like we're not even worthy of a stamp and a letter, and I find it abhorrent, and I am disgusted in your treatment of us.
If I can I just make a point that this process, even I know we're going to be saying submit, please submit on the process too. And I know you won't listen to us, but write it down, eh?
You're going to bin them. You only got 50 submissions to the last long-term plan environment Southland did.
I can guarantee we're going to get a few more this time. I can guarantee. So
and 47,000 ratepayers. 9 out of 10 people don't even know. I go to my lawyer the other day, PR laws. They don't even know about this.
We've got plenty of questions. So I mean, point, Chris.
Everyone knows.
Move on.
But could I just say?
Hang on, we've got sorry. No, there are people who've already
I've got 2.
2 up here, and then we'll come back to you, please.
So thank you for the information, can you hear? For the information you've given. I just wanted to raise it perhaps to a slightly more strategic level. I'm looking on page 23 and then on page 24, where the graphs are going the opposite way. So the first lot of increase in rates for this year is around 24%. And then you've got over the page, you've got your debt, forecast debt, and over 10 years you're increasing that by 74%. It's going from basically 19 million to 73 million. Now this Southland is a population that's not growing, and it's not predicted to grow, particularly over 10 years. I'm the Chief Executive of Hospice Southland, so I look at population very carefully, and so I know what the growth is likely to be. So I'd really just like to understand why you've got this debt going up by 74%, and then you've got rates this time at 23%, and then you're taking them right down to, what is it going to be, 5% in 10 years' time. It's counterintuitive, and it just doesn't feel right. And I think that some better explanation is required.
Look, just on that debt will not be borrowed unless the government comes to the party. If we don't put something in our annual plan, we can't apply. So you're right, we've got a small population and we cannot afford to do this stuff by ourselves, but we have to be ready for the opportunity. The rates rise is not decided. We will listen to what you say. And what normally happens with an LTP is we put in the actual figures for 3 years, then you tend to put in the rate of inflation. in 4 years' time, the council will do all this stuff all over again. So look, submit on it, and people, the council will be listening to what people say.
Okay, hi, my name is Sue Allison. I am the chair of Groundswell Western Southland. Mine is not actually a question, it's a letter that a ratepayer has forwarded to me and asked me to read out to you guys this evening. It was from Murray Fraser of Te Anau. So bear with me. He also sent this through Federated Farmers. I'm not sure if you're going to the Environment Southland meeting on the 29th of April at 6 p.m. in Invercargill at the council chambers. This is some information for you. I spoke to you a few years ago about the amount of shares Environment Southland hold in Southport Bluff before they put our rates up 20%. If they're wanting more money this time, the shares need to be sold. Their shares reached $9.20 3 years ago, and now they are $5.80. They've lost $40 million in value. Their dividend was $4.3 million a year and is now down to $2.3 million. Their share prices have been dropping because of the uncertainty at Tiwai Smelter. They still have $100 million worth of shares in Southport. If they want more money for projects, these shares should be used and not put more burden on the ratepayers. Perhaps this information should be given to the Southland Times for more ratepayers to know. Murray Fraser, Te Anau.
Thanks for that question, and we are proposing or asking Southland whether you would be happy for us over time to sell down our share. We would not move it below the 51%, which gives us majority shareholding. Basically, that is an asset for Southland, and while I sit here, we will not lose majority control. We have 2/3 of the share at the moment and get no more. We've got no more effect on the company than if we had 51%. We wouldn't spend it on rates. That's actually not what you're supposed to do. But if we were to sell down at a time that's advantageous, we would hopefully get a better return that would actually help subsidise the rates. The dividend has been very flat over the last 10 years. So we'd love to hear on that, but I'm quite out of it. I think our council would not use it to pay for the groceries, not what we're supposed to do, but we've looked at different ways of leveraging our balance sheet, and that's an issue we'd really like to have some good feedback on.
Just to clarify that, I think you said the dividend's down to 2.3.
It's not.
It's not. Sorry. Yeah, that's incorrect unless he's got a crystal ball. So it's been pretty flat all day. It's been that 4.3 or thereabouts. 4.7 million a year. So, and just understand, yeah, it's a big asset, but that goes against your rates. So it has been subsidising, or it has been paying a fair bit of stuff. But it has been, we're consulting on what we do with Southport. So it is in the system at the moment.
Yes.
Shona Stewart from Bayswater. I just want to go back to, when you shut me down before, to the question this lady asked me and Chris asked me. You know, what accountability are you going to take for the ratepayers not having information about this long-term plan?
Look, if you look at the Southland Times, we had a half-page ad on Saturday. I had an article on Saturday. You might say we've been slow to the party. There is still time. We are listening. And as for putting something in every mailbox, we'll say we shouldn't spend too much money. Actually, that was a huge cost, and it's debatable how many would have gone straight out of the trash. You know the junk mail that comes through your door. And thanks to Groundswell for actually organising a meeting and talking to people, because we actually want to hear from as many people as possible. And it's difficult these days. Some people use internet, some people use Facebook, a lot don't. But actually getting our message out is quite difficult. I actually love to see people in a hall like this where we can have interaction.
Sorry, I just feel you haven't tried hard enough to get to all ratepayers.
We're all worthy of a letter.
Well, we get those little
I'd like to say that I'm, in the post office box,
but I also get I think I got a pamphlet from you guys. I think I got a pamphlet from you guys, you know, Environment Southland, you know, we booked it.
Yep.
Why was this information not put in it?
If it was Enviro South, it was there. People were complaining it's a small ad, but if you read it, there was all the details were there to be able to contact us if you wanted a hard copy, etc.
Page.
Environment.
But why couldn't you put it, say, you know, addressed it to me, all you had to do was.
Exactly.
And
You
close.
said you were going to.
Well, that one goes in everybody's mailbox, and it's quite a bit cheaper than actually putting a stamp on a letter. Okay, well, we'll take it on the chin that you're saying that the consultation should be better. It's not over yet, and a lot more people are hearing about it.
Submissions close on the 6th of May. How on earth can we have time to get that information to people, Nicole?
I'd like to speak on the flood. The flood, that you're going to, the flood work you're going to be doing. I'm wondering why you're not looking at logs that caused the floods rather than building new expensive flood banks. Because that's what caused the last flood, was the log jam. And it's happening all around the place. That's what I'd like to know.
Operations too.
Along the same, along the same, that subject about the flooding, you're not allowing gravel to be cleared out of certain rivers, and Taramoa upcountry, gravel and rivers, we are building up and it could be removed to allow that water to flow down and get out of the road before it does flood. And a lot of people in different rural blocks are really annoyed about that they were asking it to be removed and nothing's been done.
Yeah.
Here.
Good question. When you say the logs caused the flood, do you mean the Hawke's Bay one? Or?
That's one, but even around in the town, there's a lot of logs that jam up in that area too.
It was Slash that took out the permit bridge.
Yeah, so slash is a big risk to all the road infrastructure. For Southland, the probably biggest slash risk would be unmaintained willows and poplars on the riverbanks. They're all approximately 30 to 40 years old, and they're an asset until they become a liability, right? So they need money spent on them to make sure that they don't turn up a slash on the bridges, causing those big debris or losing the bridges as a result of those floods. I completely agree. I think the other question is regarding gravel. Gravel is something that I never thought I'd spend so much time talking about, but I do. Gravel is a big challenge. We require, through the RMA process, site-specific consents. It's just the way it is. Those consents require effective parties. We have to be able to provide data and science to support gravel consents. The other challenge with gravel is actually finding somebody that wants it, where it's where it's good enough. If no one wants it, it's got no value commercially. So then somebody has to pay to remove it. We've had a couple of instances of that lately. Tara Gravel Island, we heard from the community there when we talked about consultation sessions then probably 18 months ago. It was a big risk for the community. But we were lucky that we had central government funding to take that away and use it in Gore. Otherwise, it was 60,000 tonnes of material. So who would pay for that if it didn't have commercial value? The other challenge we have with gravel is the gravel islands. They're buried under vegetation. They don't move. A dock scientist said to us a couple of weeks ago in a meeting that Greenland had the biggest flood in 40 years. There was gravel islands that he's working with. They didn't move an inch. They're just locked in place by the vegetation. So we need to increase the maintenance of flood areas as well.
Just got an online question, Randall.
Why is the slash not?
Read it out.
Cool. So I've got two questions from Vern Thompson. First one is any of the EU's rates money put into other people's /companies /consultants' hands and played with on the stock market? And then the question for you, I guess, would be, why is the slash not removed by the forest, by the logging company? Seems like intention there.
For Southland, like I said, the majority of our slash relates to willows, so it's not logging companies as such. My observations at least, unless
If you want to say something different.
About managed funds.
Yeah, thank you. There was a question there about the stock market. The council has what we call a portfolio of managed funds looked after by.
Just keep it close to you. Speak
Some
up.
people can hear me and other people are nodding and shaking their head. Council has had for many years an investment with an investment manager. It's called a portfolio or managed fund. And some of that is invested in the share market around the world, just as your KiwiSaver is. So it's a very balanced and stable, what we call a conservative fund, half in bonds and investments and interest, and half in well-known international companies.
A lot of these funds for the reserves, for the various rivers, etc. It's not just money that's floating around. We're trying to get the best return we can off it, but a lot of that is, if you look at our annual plan, you will see the list of reserves there. So there's a little bit that's flexible, but a lot of it isn't. So you've got disaster reserves, and rather than just have it sitting in a bank somewhere, we're trying to get the best return we can from it. But it's not just money there to be spent, unfortunately.
Adrian?
Steve Lindsay in the Coastal. Could someone please tell me what percentage of ratepayers in the last financial year were unable to fully pay their rates?
We'll start off with that. People can come to us and have them deferred, but I'm not sure. Tanya may be able to answer that, but may have to get it later. I'm not sure if you have detail.
I can't give you an exact number, but I know from monitoring the percentages that the last year's slower paying rate payers is no different, in fact, slightly ahead of the previous year. We always have some rate payers who don't pay immediately and take longer. That number hasn't increased. As the chairman said, we have a lot of opportunity for people to help them with their rates by our 3-payment plan, and some of those who are struggling to pay us are on monthly payments.
But you must know a percentage at the end of each financial year of people who do not pay their rates in full.
No, I couldn't tell you that. Hell, I'm sorry, I can't, because we're working with people when they are paying their rates.
Anybody, there's obviously a rate rebates scheme too, isn't there, for low income? So a lot of people actually probably don't know that. And that's through they can apply for that under, I don't know what the numbers are now.
They apply through the city council, the district council.
Yeah, apply through the district councils for that rebate. So that's another option for low income people that own properties.
Yeah, Hamish McCoy, sheep and beef farmer from Otama. How much feedback have you had from some of the larger commercial property owners in Southland? Because I feel that they find that rates increase figure they'll just about strangle you, Nickel. No offence. And my second question is, I take huge disapproval of the 23% increase. I thought inflation was something about 7%, and this current government is trying to lower that. You guys have got no idea of having control of your costs. With the new government that we currently have, the rules are changing very, very fast. And a lot of rural ratepayers out there feel you must be overstaffed because the necessity for consents are going to go out the back door. And the days of flying around behaving like Nazi Germany are over. I saw on Facebook where one of your staff members was trying to do a roadside assessment of a brassica crop out of a vehicle. Luckily, that wasn't on my road. I'd tow that vehicle down the steepest hill I could find and leave it there. Comments, please.
There's several questions in there. Business as usual, if you look at the things, about 9%. The other, and it's up for submissions, is on the flood infrastructure and the debt that we're already accumulated for some of the work we've done. So submit on that, but actually I take exception to what you said about staff getting around. I did an interview on Radio New Zealand this morning. Actually, we have led the way on intensive winter grazing, 90-odd% through education, are doing a fantastic job out there. I think the government will probably remove the central government one and the cost that goes with some of those things. But actually, thanks to the people of Southland who actually care about their environment and are doing a very good job. We are regulated. We actually have to still go out and do things, but I don't remember seeing a lot of prosecutions. Last year we had a few abatement notices, people tidied up and things moved on. So no, sorry, I won't accept that.
I was just going to say about the commercial properties, I think the largest we have been in contact, is that correct? We've reached out to them because they are significant increases. So we have made contact with them so they know exactly where it is. So we're not, they're not going to get a scare. They might not like it, but they're not going to scare.
And all the costs will come down to all of us. All the costs that they pay will filter down to all the people, the food, the transport, every service we have. That is the reality of this.
That'll be their decision to make in due course.
In response to Hamish Mackay's statement and questions, I have a question. With interest costs and cost of living going very high, most people having to tighten their budgets, what is Environment Southland doing to tighten your spending, and how many more staff will be employed under this long-term plan? And seriously, how many more vehicles are going to be bought for Environment Southland years?
We're watching. Good evening, and thank you for asking that question. So, what I want to be really clear about this budget that's proposed. The budget that is the one to be compared with last year, we are asking for basically inflation to cover costs. So last year we spent quite a significant amount of time going through our programs of work and actually doing those efficiency gains that we needed to in order to hold this budget down. We're not asking for anything above the CPI for our work program. So I know that the budget, when you add what we're suggesting we need to talk to you about in terms of flood protection and whether you're willing to invest in that or not, brings that up to a 23% rate increase. So I want to be really clear about this. We've got an absolutely profound view that we're not here to increase anything beyond a requirement by the community to do that. So there are three matters before us for this budget. The first one is, I'm not increasing any programs of work in this budget. We're holding our work programs and we're reviewing our levels of service to keep those costs down. But we face every cost increase that you do as well. So I agree with you, that's our job. So looking at that and looking at what actually matters, I hear what you're saying about, will there be consents, will there be regulation? The answer to that is yes, the government's just announced that it's going to create a new climate adaptation bill, which they'll be passing to us. There'll be new environmental standards. There'll be new policy statements, 3 tranches of changes to the RMA. So all of the things that you're hoping mean that nothing happens, all of that change will still happen. And government's made it very clear that it's looking to regions and not to central government to actually take the lead. So while that means that there's a capacity for us to actually be making decisions together collectively, and it's notwithstanding your feedback about whether you feel that we've engaged with you well, and I hear that, and I'm disappointed that that's actually been the outcome for you, because it's not from an absence of us actually really wanting to connect, but obviously clearly not doing that as well as you would have liked or in ways that you wanted. We need to be making decisions about that. So if government is saying to us, yes, we support the fact that regions and local government and local areas can actually make decisions about their future, that's the profound question we're asking you. Do you want to do that? Because government is not necessarily going to provide us with the money to support the major matters that are in front of us.
We just wanted a letter in the mail.
I'm really sorry that that was actually a matter that was not an offer and a removal of that. That was a mistake, and I apologise for that. I know you're not going to accept that from me, but I'm telling you that that was.
That is not, there was never going to be a letter to everybody, and I'm really sorry that that actually was presented to you that way, because that's a disappointment, and that's an absence of trust then with us for what we're saying to you. But what I'm saying is this: there is not a desire to increase our rates around our regular work. We also have had to face the fact that we've got to deliver what Parliament hands down to us. And so that is not going away with this new government. The government is going to actually ask us to change our regulations again. So we're not asking for anything in our regular work program beyond the cost of living increase.
But do you work for the people of Southland, or do you work for the government?
No, so can I say to you that if government directs us under the law to do things, we can't not do that. However, we can go back to government. This is actually what you have this council for, to actually go back and advocate. I've got to say, this council has been very brave with central government. To your point about intensive winter grazing, it's this council that got the government to change those regulations in consultation with the community and collectively with groups working together, from Fish and Game to federated farmers and to individual farmers. So this council's actually done that. This chairman has taken to central government a proposal to actually take the insanity out of farm planning that was one size fits all, and to actually bring that risk back here and back to the organisation. Look at what are the risks in this region, so that we can actually do things that are sensible for this region. This is what this council looks at, and this is what this council wants to do. So I'm sorry that engagement for you hasn't felt good. So there are a couple of things I want to say to you specifically about the area that you live in. The first one is, you are in a unique current rating situation. So moving to a general rate that's supporting a whole of region catchment management of that 2.3 million is having an effect, and I would say actually a perverse effect, I think, on the Wire Special Rating District. So if you're in there, it's not the capital value necessarily that's driving your rate increase. It's also the fact that you're coming off a low rate base now, because you've got the deed from Meridian that's actually paying for a lot of the works. And so this is not necessarily a good thing from your perspective. That's why actually what the council is saying here is, please actually write to us about that. We actually need the public submissions. This is not something that we're actually blind to, and I'm concerned about it. We want to fix it.
The thing is, submission time is shutting on the 6th of May. 90% of Southlanders know nothing of this. How are you going to inform them in time to do a submission? Seriously, you've only on the 24th of this month changed that clause from everyone will get a letter to only such and such will get a letter.
Yeah,
the 22nd it still stood, the 24th it was changed this month.
So I think you're making really good points in terms of the issues that you're raising. The questions on an individual basis about, because, I think in this situation around the rates, there is actually a matter that needs for us to look at, which is in the Waiau Special Rating District, there is a significant increase in rates, and that's coming off that low base as a result of Meridian deed.
But forgetting Waiau, we looked at rating increases in Gore, and houses there were looking at 45%, some houses. A friend of mine has a farmlet near Winton, and she is looking at 60% increases.
Sure.
2 farmlets over there. So sorry, nothing to do with Waiau.
So all I can say is that the material that you were showing this evening shows the numbers of people and where they sit in that rating. So there are, in the change to capital value, definitely you're going to see some changes. And also, we're actually sharing the responsibility now to pay for catchment infrastructure more evenly across the region. So that is also the case. So there are going to be some people for whom percentage increases will look high. I don't know what that means in dollar terms for them. And I think that this is not something that the council is unaware of, because it's been raised with us now in multiple meetings, and you're raising it again tonight. So whether people have individually written to us, we're aware of what those issues are now. And council will consider all of those and debate them.
When you buy a farm, you get a farm near a river is always less in price, but that's the end of it. All right.
It didn't answer the last part of the question.
Oh,
how many staff will be employed under this long-term plan? How many extra staff will be employed under this long-term plan?
So the proposals for extra staff are related entirely to the work of the infrastructure increase. So I think that there's, Randy, you're going to have to remind me if I'm going to say the wrong number out loud. We have 5.
in the budget.
in the budget.
Thank you.
Vehicles. I don't think
No,
vehicles has gone up.
I don't think, in fact, I think our vehicle
Since
fleet has
we've
gone,
been-
our
since
vehicle
I've
fleet
been
has gone
about
down
here.
since I've been here, certainly.
We work with vehicles a lot more effectively, I should say.
How many vehicles do you have now?
50, 60, somewhere in there.
Sorry, I apologise for not knowing that off the top
Always
of my head,
know,
actually.
it's something
I
we always
should,
look at every year and
I should.
encourage lease.
It is 50,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's 50.
yeah, thank you.
That's very vague.
No, it's 50.
No, it's exactly, we can tell you exactly, we'll get back to you. It's pretty close to 50.
Thank you.
Hi, sorry, another question over here.
So listening to the lady on the front page on farms that surround each other, some are lifestyle blocks, some are big farms. It does concern me that farms in the same area, big commercial farms, have a lot lower rate increase than next to lifestyle block. Situated in the same areas. They're still behind the same rivers, they're still behind the same flood zones. Often the farms will flood onto lifestyle blocks. How do you hope to manage that?
I'm not sure of the certain matter that you're talking about, but that would be a surprising outcome. The move to capital value means that the larger the commercial investment and the larger amount of value associated with your property is where the capital value kicks in. So the majority of large commercial farms would have the more significant increase, so I'm not certain.
A larger farm has a larger land value rather than capital value.
I can clarify, like, we talk, there's a lot of lifestyle blocks because of the capital value, the low land value have been getting more extreme. The percentage increase, not necessarily dollars, but percentage increases going up because of the capital. You can have $1 million house on $500,000 worth of land. Sorry.
Small bit of land.
Yeah, so that there is, yeah, so that it's correct. Look, I know from up in the Gore district, from my experience, and what I know, minus 17 up to 40% between dairy farm down to bedland in town. So there's a high range of rate differences depending on where the capital is. If you've got bare land, it drops because you've got no capital, you haven't got that extra stuff on it. So definitely there is a few things popping up.
Could I just add to that? This is an adjustment year, the proposed policy change. The proposal suggests that in year 2, that everybody will be on the same, every property would be rated on the same dollars per capital value. So in theory, in the future, when we have a 5% or 10% rate increase, everybody would have that increase. What you're seeing now as part of the system, where there's the old land value rates and the current capital value rates, it's a one-off anomaly. And we are talking a lot of percentages. The council, when we did the analysis on affordability, we looked at dollars per week for the residential type properties and dollars per annum for the commercial and rural properties. The percentages are throwing out massive variances. There's people with a 12% rate increase. There are some people with a negative rate increase. This is a year of adjustment. After the first year, every rate increase would be the same percentage. And that is the benefit of everybody getting onto that equal dollars per capital value.
I was just going to, sorry, while we're running the microphone up to you. If you understand, all the pink in here is F class in the Matara. And that's 80% of the land in that area. Well, they were only, I think they're paying 33%, is that? 33% of the rates in regards to the river management, the floods. So that's and there are areas that weren't rated at all. So this sort of brings a bit more, brings everybody into the system because a lot of these big areas have done a huge amount of development too and sped up the water and taken, they're just farmed in the last number of 30, 40, 50, last 150 years. So that's what we're trying to target too, making sure everybody pays their bit to looks after the river. Because it all ends up here. That's what we're dealing with. So that gives a wee bit of clarity around what we're trying to achieve. Sorry.
Excuse me. It's going back to what you said earlier on.
Talk, microphone closer, honey.
Sorry, I can't remember what you said, but about the electricity companies. I've got 40 acres and I've got electricity poles all over the place that go to my neighbours and everything else. Are they paying anything? Are they paying extra? Are they helping me with my rates? And if not, why not?
Yes.
So the answer to that question is at the moment, they're not paying for that land, you're paying for it. But when we go to capital value, yes, there's definite increase for what those are called utility type companies, power companies, water, drainage, all the assets that don't have any land associated with it. There's, was it 2 billion, I think, $2 billion worth of assets in that category that we're not paying catchment or land use rates before, that they will be. Yes, so that's part of the spreading out and trying to keep it equal.
Thank you.
Just wondering what you're actually wanting to speak up. Can I speak up a bit louder? Sorry. What are the projects you've got? You've got some LiDAR and some other bits, and you said that you're going to be doing a Waihokai and those sorts of areas. What are you actually going to be doing with the money?
Thank you for the question. So we're prioritising Winton and Lumsden for this LTP because they currently have a very low level of service, 1 employee a year, plus half a metre frequency, which is pretty low for quite significant communities and very large capital value for Southland. So we're proposing to raise them to a 1 in 100 year level of service, plus half a metre frequency. In terms of the data and the science, we're looking at the bathymetric surveys for Ariti, Aparima and Waiā. We take that data, as well as Invercargill, sorry, and we build 2D hydraulic models, and then we test a range of solutions and use them for consultation. For the Waihokai, it's about a secondary detention dam area, and should we need it in the future. That's proposed, yeah.
Are you? Yeah, I live near the Matara Island area, and I've only been in this area a couple of years now, less than 2 years, and already once we've been completely cut off. Couldn't go out through Wyndham, couldn't go out through the other way, there was no way out at all, apart from the opposite direction to Invercargill. Are you going to do anything about areas like that? Because you can't get rid of the floodplain. That's got to stay, I know that, but it's kind of like raising roads or putting a bridge in.
Another great question, thank you. So at the moment we start from the 1980s. Our assets were built by the central government and they were handed over to this community who paid to maintain them. So there's been no central government funding since the mid-80s. All the maintenance costs for those assets have been funded by Southland ratepayers through target rates. So if there's no assets, our target rate schemes don't deliver a level of service such as what you described. So if we move, I guess what we've seen in the last 2 or 3 years is that we're getting more support wanted from the community. If you look at the likes of Blue Cliffs, the Tuatapere Stock Banks, Wallacestown, the Lark Street, the Tower Gravel Islands, which is just like not your gravel, not your Mount Terror Islands, sorry. The bridges, the gravel hookups. We're getting a lot of demand, and I'm sorry, Hamish, but my team doesn't feel like we're overstaffed. Like we're under the pump every day. So there's a lot of work outside of our current assets that we don't deliver. And what we want to do is that we have to lower the flood risk to all of our communities. So by moving to a general region-wide rate, that gives us the ability to do work outside of our current assets.
It's been going on for years.
At least 40.
Yeah.
No offence to that lady, but it's called Matara Island for a reason.
Yes, but I was wondering if there was anything going to be done about it.
That is relevant.
I was wondering if they were going to do anything. They're talking about flooding and this, that, and the other, and there's all those communities cut off. I was just curious if they were actually going to do something about it.
Well, even Matera itself got cut off during last floods. We had no exit plan.
Yeah, unfortunately, there are areas that flood when it floods, and some of us have been here a bit longer. We know where they are and where roads get cut off, but we can't protect every, I know. It's just being about being prepared when the floods do come.
Moving to everybody paying some sort of rate means that areas that didn't in the past couldn't get any work done. So going forward, there's more ability. It was like the Wallace Downs. There was no catchment rate there, so that was quite difficult. So one of the advantages is actually if everybody's paying, there's ability to do more. We've got people talk about slash where there's no schemes at the moment. Over time, we're not putting the budget up at the moment, same amount of money spread differently, but over time it probably gives us the ability to actually do more catchment wide work, which I think is actually good.
Does it actually concern you, Nicole, and your people that only 9 out of 10 people in Southland know about this proposed long-term plan? You say put in submissions, we're all happy to do them, but only 1 out of 10 of us even know about this. So does that not concern you? And are you therefore willing to extend submission date considering you didn't send out the letters? You can say it was a mistake. I'm sorry, 880 people work in ES. Someone should have proofread that pretty well for not to have a mistake. If I did that in my business, I wouldn't have a business anymore, I can tell you now. And I'm sorry, I don't think it's a very good excuse that you made a mistake. And on the 22nd of April, when we went to had a meeting, public meeting called by Western South and Groundswell and invited Environment Southland, that clause was still in there. They brought the books out to us. One of our ladies found that clause and I posted it on the Environment Southland website on the 23rd. By the 24th, those books weren't available at the public meeting at Waimatuku. They weren't there, the other books were. And by the next night on the Friday, a friend rang me and said they've changed it on the website. So doesn't that all sound a bit unusual to you?
And Nicole will answer the question.
Look, there's no conspiracy theories going on here. We apologise that there was a mistake made. The reality is, if we got 10% of people submitting, that would be well above what normally happens. We will listen. If you know people who say that they can't get the submission in, but they can get it in a few days later, if you contact our people, I'm sure we would actually accept them. Look, we are here for the best. We all take an oath to do the best for Southland. That's what we actually get up and do every day. So to the staff, we actually punch above our weight. We've got under 200 staff. ECAN, we've got 800, about 330 in Otago. We all have to do the same things. We've got the biggest coastline in Southland. So we are doing our best for you, but we want to hear the submissions and get the feedback will be listened to, and we'll make decisions after that.
Have you got a question, Craig? Is there anybody else? Yeah, question?
Yeah, okay. I'd like you to explain under the Local Government Act 2002, Nicole, what are the obligations of this council to inform the people of Southland? I can read a little bit about the Act. It actually clearly states that all ratepayers are to be informed. Hang on, I've just got this. We, the ratepayers, are legally entitled to this information to make an informed consultation of the draft proposals. Also, the wording implies that this isn't a draft plan, but worded how your rates would be affected. Should have been worded could be affected. This sentence should have been worded correctly and not implying an already made decision. This calls into question the word draft in bold grey letters across each page at the meeting on Monday night, the 22nd in Otago. The Act also states that any ratepayer stakeholder who will be affected by a proposal under the Act must be contacted. This does not constitute an ad in the paper, a post on social media, a text message or a live stream. I have checked with Internal Affairs there has been a clear breach of our democratic principles and rights as affected persons. Your obligations under this Act require you to mail all concerned. You certainly have all the addresses in your database. We all get the rates demands, don't we? So it wasn't going to be a big job to do it.
Look, I think if Internal Affairs wants to prosecute us, bring it on. That is not our interpretation. We are doing our level best through radio, through all the media outlets to actually get to as many people as possible.
Hang on, just.
I think we'll cover a fair bit of this.
That's a pretty good thing. Look, the reality is that it's good you're here and there should be
Sure
at least
is
these
good I'm
matters. And at the groundswell, it was a great meeting. And it is always, I tell you what, it's very frustrating from councillors trying to reach constituents, people in the community. You know, like the reality I hear, you know, you're talking about one. I know, but I tell you what, a lot of people don't read letters.
Oh, come on, we all get our rates
I
demand.
tell you what, look, I'm not going to get an argument, but it is. This is the reality of it. We love to go knocking on the doors, and we are here. We will. If you ring, we can be.
Do your job.
We're here. Well, that's what we're doing. That's why we're here. And we have had drop-in sessions. Yes, we can do all these things better, but look, I think that we're just about we've had an hour of questions. If there's anything,
Yes.
Chris, you've had a fair.
I'd like to move a motion, actually.
Well, it's not. It's not.
Well, it's a meeting.
No, I don't know whether we can. Sorry. We'll probably call it quits now. Unless there's a question, a relevant question, please. We're not going to have motions in that. We're here. It's public. It's a discussion.
Okay, so the debt is expected to quadruple from 18 million to 72 million during the course of the long-term plan. With interest rates and the cost of living where they are now, where does this leave the average Southlander, and especially those on fixed incomes and the elderly, which we know we've got a proportion of the society down here, community?
I think I've covered that, and if you want to take away a copy of the presentation, information's in the back there. We're talking $5 per household for the first 5 million, and 10 years from now, $66 per household. And that's for purchasing or their property share of a $200 million regional investment.
I'm just saying that we've got a cost of living crisis happening here in New Zealand, and that small amount is severe for some people.
Look, we're aware of the affordability issues. Our ears are open. This is quite a rigid process. We can't have motions and say we're going to change things now, because other parties would take us off for judicial review and say your mind's made up. Our minds aren't made up. We will go through the process. We will listen to the submitters. We will deliberate, and something will come out the other end. It's a project. Local government's a bit clunky. We've only got a few tools we can actually use for rating. This is a process that we have to go through, and we have to show integrity and actually stick to it and be honest. So we welcome as many submissions as possible.
Excuse me, but does that integrity leave us very short time? 6th of May? A lot of people don't know about this. They're not aware. We might need to actually address that.
If people were to contact us and say, look, we can't get it in by the date, but we can have it in shortly afterwards, I'm sure we would look at it.
I'm sorry, I'm sure is not sufficient. Surely tonight you can state to us you are prepared to extend the submission date for a week, a month, or whatever, saying we will probably take these submissions and read them as not acceptable.
Since I've been on this council, there's always late submissions, and the council, all those councils have accepted the late ones, but it won't be a month. That is too long. If there's some just over the date, I'm sure my council will vote to actually have them.
Okay. We have one more question, I think, and then we might wrap it up.
Hang on. Yep. Look, I haven't had too much time to study this, but what I have heard around the country is the time frame is a bit short. I think it would make common sense to shift it out to the 31st of May. And one other thing we need to remember here, this is everybody's water. It's everybody's responsibility. 1984 happens again. We won't be worried about the cost of living when Invercargill is flooded. If we have a problem, you've got problems within your own board, which I won't address here tonight. But I think it would be common sense to shift out to 31st. And we have to look at the big picture. Sorry, people, it's all going to cost us in the long run, whether you're on top of the hill or at the river mouth. You're gonna get some water, you're gonna have to pay for it, everyone's problem.
Thanks. Do you have wrap it up?
Well, look, thanks for everybody coming tonight. I know, people are concerned. We want to hear from them. We haven't made up our minds, like some people saying it's already decided it isn't. We will listen, and if you want us to on a slight extension, we can do that. I can't get up and say we're going to do it tonight. That's not actually legal. But thanks everybody for coming tonight. Really appreciate the turnout. It's always good to actually talk to some of our constituents. And so have a great trip home, and we look forward to your submissions.
What about this? Can you please just reiterate that you will not allow me to move a motion, please? I would like you to say that.
We're in a process that we have to follow. We can't actually, we now have to wait for the submissions. I'm not quite sure what your motion's going to say.
My motion would actually say basically that because you didn't send us a letter as promised right up to the 22nd of this April, that we deserve more time to tell more people about this long-term plan, so they have the right to make a decision about making a submission. Because right now you've reached hardly anyone. I've hardly seen anything about this when we have had drop-in sessions. Even community Facebook pages haven't got anything on them, and you cannot deny it.
Yeah, no, look, thanks everyone for coming.
Hang on.
No, look, no.
Hold on. Hang on.
We said we were all over, sorry.